Every other healthcare experience has trained you to expect long appointments 60 minutes for PT, 45 minutes for OT. The longer the session, the more thorough it must be, right? So when you watch your child get a chiropractic adjustment and it lasts 2 to 5 minutes, your brain throws up a red flag. Wait, that's it? That's the right question to ask, but the answer flips everything you've been taught about healing on its head. You see, a neurologically focused adjustment isn't shorter because it's doing less. It's shorter because of how powerfully the nervous system responds to precise input. And adding more would actually overwhelm an already overloaded system. And once you understand the real mechanism behind what happens during those 2 to 5 minute adjustments, the entire concept of the time on the table stops being the right yardstick. And what looks short is actually doing something extraordinary, and the proof shows up in the hours and the days that follow. So this is for the parents who've watched their child move through therapy after therapy, supplement after supplement, protocol after protocol, and still feel like something foundational is being missed. And if you've ever wondered whether a 2 minute adjustment could actually move the needle, well, then this one's for you. Because in this video, you're going to learn what a chiropractic adjustment actually is and what it isn't. How a precise neurological input reaches the brainstem, the vagus nerve, and the cortex. Why pediatric adjustments are short by design. And why frequency matters far more than duration for healing. And how the insight scans make the invisible nervous system visible. So, one of the most powerful examples our profession has ever documented happened inside of a level 3 NICU and not a chiropractic office. There was a newborn baby boy that suffered traumatic birth that included a whiplash type injury to his upper neck and his brainstem, a hypoxic brain injury, and a condition called PPHN, persistent pulmonary hypertension of the newborn. Because he was hooked up to every machine and monitor that you can imagine, the neurophysiological impact of those first gentle adjustments was visible within real time. His heart rate started to come down, respiration improved, oxygen levels rose, and his whole body relaxed and released that locked in tension. And what happened in that NICU isn't a one time story. It's the same thing that happens quietly every single time that a child receives a neurologically focused adjustment. You just can't always see it spelled out on a monitor the way that it was that day. So the adjustment isn't what you think it is, right? That pop or the crack sound is just gas being released from the joint capsules. And it has nothing to do with whether the adjustment worked or didn't work. The real action isn't structural at all. It's the precise neurological signal that structure sends to the brain. So a specific input activates mechanoreceptors and proprioceptors packed into the paraspinal muscles, which carry the highest density of muscle spindles anywhere within the body, right? So that sensory burst races up the spinal cord to the brainstem, to the cerebellum, and then the prefrontal cortex, giving the brain a clean read on the body's position, its tension, and the overall tone. So the goal is to correct subluxation, a three-part pattern that includes the physical misalignment, the joint fixation, and the neurological interference between the brain and the body. So for children, little children especially, the pressure used is comparable to checking the ripeness of an avocado. It's gentle, it's specific, and it's child appropriate at every stage of life. So let's chat about how that one small input affects the entire nervous system. So the adjustment delivers a controlled burst of neurosensory input that the brain then uses to recalibrate how it processes information within the body. That signal reaches the brainstem, the region that controls our heart rate, our breathing, our digestion, and our arousal, the foundational systems running every minute of every day. You see, the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic system engage, shifting the body out of sympathetic dominance, that chronic fight or flight state that most dysregulated kids are stuck in. You see, the 2016 study published in the Neuroplasticity Journal showed adjustments produce measurable changes in prefrontal cortex activity, which is the area that's responsible for executive function, for attention, for our regulation, for empathy, for love, for decision making. And this is why one adjustment can affect themes that seem unrelated, like sleep, digestion, immunity, and regulation. You see, the nervous system controls all of it, which is why you see children with very different diagnoses often share the same underlying pattern of dysautonomia, which is why the same foundational care helps so many of them. So here's why pediatric adjustments are short by design. You see, a child's nervous system can only absorb so much sensory input before it becomes overwhelmed and it starts shutting down. Picture the nervous system like a computer with too many tabs open. When too many programs run at once, everything slows down or crashes. And so a child stuck in sympathetic dominance is already swamped by school and screens and sensory input and food sensitivities, leaving minimal spare processing capacity. So adding 30 to 60 minutes of hands-on input wouldn't be more thorough. It would trigger the same meltdown response that parents see at the dentist after a long therapy session. A precise input roughly takes 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then the brain spends the next 24 to 72 hours doing the actual work to release those stress patterns. So sometimes the most healing thing that we can do is give the nervous system less to process, not more. But here's why frequency beats duration every single time. The brain rewires through neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity has one rule: repetition. A foundational 2008 paper outlined that repetition, specificity, and intensity drive lasting neural change, not the duration of a single session. Now, there's 168 hours in a week. A child receives about 6 minutes of table time across 2 to 3 visits. Now, that leaves roughly 167 hours and 54 minutes happening between those visits. And those hours can work for the child or work against them. So, a higher frequency of care keeps the release ahead of the reload from stress, growth spurts, illness, and sensory overload. The adjustment is the catalyst, but the brain does the healing between the visits. And so this is why the insight scans make the invisible visible. So the insight scans measure nervous system function through three objective tools: heart rate variability, surface EMG, and the thermal. Heart rate variability shows how adaptable the autonomic nervous system is and reveals vagal tone. Surface EMG reveals whether a child is stuck on the gas pedal or showing fatigue patterns. And the thermal scan shows where autonomic dysregulation is concentrated along the spine. So, two children with the same diagnosis can show completely different scan patterns, which is why personalization happens at the neurological level and not the symptomatic one. The scans guide care planning, our technique selection, the primary subluxation targeting. So we don't guess, we have to test. If your child's been through every protocol, every supplement, every therapy, and the piece missing still feels like it's something deeper, there's a reason. The foundation is neurological, and the right input delivered to the right place at the right frequency is what helps shift the entire trajectory. Your child doesn't need more labels, they need answers. So to get started with neurologically focused chiropractic care, check the link within our bio, send our office a DM, or schedule directly with us at Haven Family Chiropractic. Get the consult, get the scans, find the foundation, and trust the frequency.